Hello, folks. Welcome to episode 7 of season 3 of the GOAT series, where we're going on the 1960s right now of the all decade team here of what we have here. Of course, we got to bring on our usual here, our veteran GOAT series guy, Zach Brazick. We got to bring him on here, folks, who's a legend here on the channel. And of course, you know me, Jeremy Hadler, as your host as usual. But today, once again, folks, we're going to dive through quarterback on offense, wide receiver, halfback, running back, because that's when the split of the era began for the whole offense of really being the true last ending of it. Then, of course, we can go tight end, O-line. Then we're going defense. We're going one per position here because I feel like it's easier for everybody because a lot of people aren't going to know who they were. So we're just making it easy and concise for everybody of the younger viewers as well, just to get a brief of it. And then we're only going one special teams today because for the reason why we did that is because there was a lot of mix of like everybody was playing the positions. So it was like too many to count for. So there's like a bajillion you could argue for in those positions. So we chose for special teams kicker for that reason, because that's the one that we always like, especially how you place and how you kick the ball. That was way different back in the day than it is today, which Zach is our kicking expert. So he will explain furthermore on. But let's dive deep into this, Zach. Who do you have as your quarterback?
Yeah, starting off with a big one here. And yeah, welcome once again, viewers. It's nice to be back on the channel. But for quarterback, there's some good options. The 60s were kind of a weird era. It was like the merger happened and the Super Bowl era. A lot of people played two positions, like you were saying.
Yep.
But for quarterback, I went with good old Johnny Unitas. My dad really respects his game and his part in the era. And he was a great player. He threw a nice spiral. He threw some very nice passes back in his day. He had a Colts team that was very successful, had a lot of the better players of the 60s. My one big fact I love with Johnny Unitas is he had the record for the most games with a touchdown pass in a row. He held that record for like over 50 years until
Wow.
Nick Brady, I think, probably. I think he's the one who beat him. He really just was very consistent. The thing I don't like with a lot of really old quarterbacks is just so many turnovers and their stats just look terrible, like when you look at them today. But I feel like Unitas, they are still impressive.
No, that's a great pick. I really like that, Johnny Unitas. I went with someone different because the way I always look at it is how they impacted the era, and I really love Johnny Unitas. He's also like one of my favorite quarterbacks from the old days. But this guy, I think you have to give it of like what he accomplished. You can't really do. Plus, he's the only guy to ever do this in NFL history, not in the Super Bowl era, because it was, as you mentioned before, the merger just happened. So my guy is Bart Starr, the legend, two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl MVP, five-time champion. That's before the Super Bowl era and during the Super Bowl era. So it's combined of both. One-time MVP, one first-team All-Pro, three second-team All-Pro, four-time Pro Bowler, four-time passer rater, four-time completion percentage leader. Fun fact for him, this is insane, folks, that a lot of guys, even today's NFL, can't do. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, but they couldn't do it, folks. They couldn't do it. Bart Starr is 9-1 in the playoffs. Ridiculous. When has that happened? I haven't seen that at all, Zach. I haven't seen it. So I think he has to deserve because of what he achieved in that era. First quarterback I remember to do is of like previous a time where the Chiefs could have won the Super Bowl and been the first repeater in the Super Bowl era. But in Super Bowl history, the last time it occurred was Bart Starr and the Green Bay Packers with Vince Lombardi. Bart Starr won the first two Super Bowls and the last year before the whole thing became the merger and everything. So technically, he was the first three-peat guy. Bart Starr, I got to give appreciation out here. And my favorite play probably of him is the Ice Bowl, the QB sneak, which was not the tush-push. That was a traditional QB sneak here, folks. So I got to give appreciation to Bart Starr on that one.
Yeah, good pick. There's definitely a lot of Packers to talk about from this era, and he's definitely one of the top ones and great player. Rest in peace, too.
Yeah, rest in peace to him, Unitas, and all of them, as the many greats we talk about in this episode. But let's get to wide receiver. I will start out here for us. Then we'll pick it off to Zach. This guy I really liked when I've talked about him the GOAT series before, and that is Lance Alworth. Lance Alworth, he's a one-time AFL champion, one-time AFL Player of the Year, 6 first-team All-AFL, one-time second-team All-AFL, 7-time Pro Bowler in the AFL, three-time AFL receiving yards leader, three-time AFL receptions leader, three-time AFL receiving TDs leader. Basically, the guy just dominated in his era. He just really did. What really stood out to me was he exploded off the line using quickness to really help out and thrive on the long balls. He was a deep route, explosive guy at the end. And he also is good on jet sweeps too if you need him to go out here and there. He really stood out to me about just being an explosive guy, and that is one of the first guys you see in the NFL history to be the explosive guy. You don't see that like today, of course, now you see it, but Lance was definitely one of the first guys to truly dominate as a wide receiver there, like you would see with Jerry Rice, or you're seeing today with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. You're seeing it out there, but that's insane to see, folks, of what he achieved in that. So he's got to give it to me here, folks. I got to give it to Lance Allworth. Zach, who'd you have for your pick?
It is a great pick. I assumed you would pick him. I do really appreciate him, and he has a good nickname. His nickname was Bambi, like the deer.
Bambi. Yep.
I don't know why, but it's a good nickname. I went with a guy who's much less known, especially by younger people, because he never had any Madden cards or anything like that. No cool nickname, but he did. He was a great player. His name was Tommy McDonald.
Good
Not
pick.
very known, but he was really a journeyman, which is kind of weird because back then you usually kind of just played for one team, especially if you're good. He played for the Eagles, Cowboys, Rams, and the Cleveland Browns. My Cleveland Browns for in that decade. That's a lot of teams, but he was great everywhere he went. He led the NFL in receiving touchdowns, two times, with his career high being 13. He led the league in yards once, and he had made 6 Pro Bowls, a few All Pros. Just very reliable in the red zone and had very great hands. He's known for having some of the least drops in that era, and played for some famous franchises. Very under the radar guy. Not many people know him, but a very solid player. His numbers are very nice when you.
Absolutely great pick. He was my second guy. Had it not been Lance Allworth, I really like Tom McDonald. Fun fact, I will say, if you ever watched the Vince Papale movie, which is Mark Wahlberg playing Vince Papale in the Eagles movie, his favorite player in the movie, of what the character said, which probably is true, was Tommy McDonald, was Vince Papale's favorite Eagle growing up in the movie. So that's a fun fact. I'd like to give a shout out to Vince Papale.
That's a great fact. I actually never have seen that movie. I really should watch it at some point.
Let's kick it to running back here. Zach, I leave it forward to you because I think everyone knows the popular pick as the Cleveland Browns fan. Who would you pick?
Yeah, I think it's somewhat a no-brainer, especially for this decade. I'm not wearing I own a Jim Brown shirt. I should have worn it because he's the guy, Jim Brown, aka Jimmy Brown. Thing with him, and we talked about it in season 2 a lot. Or was it season 1?
I think it was both seasons you talked about.
Both, is because he's technically like a fullback on record. But I know we've ranted in previous seasons about how that's just kind of weird. It was just kind of back then. A lot of the guys were fullbacks, but he was a powerhouse runner. Played 9 years for the Cleveland Browns. Was a Pro Bowl every year. Was All Pro every year except one. And he just led the league in yards pretty much every single year he played. And he was just an absolute animal. Just no one could bring him down. It was just not fair out there. Like Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl in real life, and helped the Browns win their last championships. Unfortunately, they weren't Super Bowls. He sadly retired like right before the Super Bowl era because he wanted to be an actor, which, I got some thoughts about that, but I guess it's okay. It was 60 years ago now, so I guess I can forgive him because he was a legendary player. Really loved the Browns too. Like after he retired, he always stuck around, always was in those stands, announced a lot of our draft picks. So just beast of a player, like someone who you watch your highlights, it's like hard to believe they're even real. So gotta love Jim Brown. And yeah, he's my pick for running back.
Nice. Same here. I will also give it to Jim Brown. I think the only thing add on to that, like of course he went for the acting. I think the big hypothetical theory about Jim Brown is if he didn't retire as an actor, who knows what Cleveland would have been as a team further on, but also how dominant he still would have been because he's arguably one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the league, which I already mentioned my GOAT running back, which you can go check that out from the past seasons. You can go check that out. But he really stood out to me, Zach, about being one of the best, especially in the era where the statistics, it's a lot easier today of where you can look at it like, okay, you could achieve this. It's more statistical era we played in recently. But in his back in the day, statistics weren't really a thing. And he still has some of the best like accolades and records to be up on that. And he won an NFL MVP award too, folks, which you don't see that in the NFL. You just don't. It's a QB award, guys. We all know it's a QB award. You would like someone else to get the award that's not a QB, but Jim Brown set the standard of what it's like to be a running back. He set the standard for that. So, got to give appreciation out to him. Accolades, everything he achieved with Cleveland, phenomenal guy. He is definitely the Tecmo Bowl as Bo Jackson that Zach mentioned before. Definitely is, but got to give a huge shout out to him. Appreciation to him as well.
Yeah, truly one of the goats. Probably the Browns goat, in all honesty, and yeah, incredible player.
Incredible player here. So that's the running back, guys. Now we're going to go to halfback. Now, Zach, can you please again tell the audience what the difference is of the halfback and the running back here?
Yeah, so it all comes down to, especially back in the 1960s, just where you line behind your quarterback. If you're really close to him in your formation, you're a fullback. Really far back, which these days pretty much everyone is, then you're a halfback. And back then it was just a little weird. Just like the more jumbo formations that you had in football back then. That's why you have a lot of old fullbacks. So,
well, there it is, folks. That's the explanation right there. If you ever wondered about what's the difference between a halfback and regular running back, that's it right there, folks. I will start out first, and then we'll kick it off to Zach here. I wanted to go with Packer because I had to. I just had to go with that. I couldn't go with Jim Taylor for the running back because of Jim Brown, so I'm going to go with Paul Hornung here, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Hornung, part of that's Packers dynasty, I call it. 5 championships in 7 years, ridiculous, where he was a 2-time NFL scoring leader, 1-time NFL rushing TDs leader, NFL MVP award, got 2 first-team pros, won 4 championships in the NFL, 1 Super Bowl because of that. Big thing that really stood out to me was when the goal line occurred and you need a guy to clutch and punch it in there, Paul Hornung was the guy. And the big thing that I always remember about the Packers and that era of Vince Lombardi is the jet sweep, the power sweep. As Red Foreman from the 70s show, if you ever see that show, folks, once said, because he loves Vince Lombardi, if executed properly, it becomes unstoppable, which it did majority of the time when that play was being used. And he was very patient of how to get through guys, had good instincts and good speed, and very good at cutting guys, like cutting precisely when you got to go off a defender, cut through the guards, O-lineman, every bit of that. Got to give appreciation out there to him.
Yeah, for sure. I also had Paul Hornung there for my halfback as well. Just fit that Packers system very well, was a very key piece for them and played a very shifty role, like you said, a little more, juking guys out a little, and was a fantastic player. And we'll definitely talk about that whole running attack more with some of these linemen. It's a great name on the list.
Absolutely. All right, let's kick it to tight end now. Zach, who is your tight end, sir?
Yeah, it was a tough call because this was kind of before tight ends really started receiving. That more started like the mid 70s with guys like Dave Casper, Kellen Winslow Sr. So for the 60s, it was tough. I went with a guy who's not really known as a player. I mean, he is, but he's more known as a coach for sure. And that is Mike Ditka. If you have ever seen Kicking and Screaming, you love Mike Ditka because
Juice Box.
Yeah, he plays a great role in that movie. But yeah, he was the first tight end ever to have a 1,000-yard season, which was a really key moment in the NFL, just showing that you can use these tight ends. You can do a little more of a spread offense, not just be jumbo packages all the time. And Mike Ditka was a key part of that. He also was a great blocker too, of course, because back then you really, really needed to be. And
Yes.
played for some good Bears and Dallas teams, and was he made some good catches when given the opportunity, and was pretty groundbreaking for the position. And as a coach, obviously, that's really where he made his mark and why he's such a legendary name in the football world. But I had to give him the nod here. It was a tough call, but I had to go with Mr. Kicking and Screaming himself.
That is probably my favorite movie of him ever starring if he's in any movie or TV show. That's my favorite appearance of where he's literally called from Will Ferrell, the juice box guy, instead of just the Super Bowl champion or the 85 Bears coach. He has to be called a juice box guy, which that is insane to call to Mike Ditka because Mike Ditka had a temper, and you didn't want to mess with Mike Ditka's temper at all, folks. It was bad. I also went with Mike Ditka. It was a tough call for me as well. I thought, even though he's mostly known as a coach, I thought it was appropriate just to give it to him here because he did impact the way tight ends are utilized today, especially the blocking. I think he was one of the pre-stoners of starting how to block the tight end. He was very violent at that, and you had to be because back in that time, you had excessive, violent defensive players coming at you, and Mike Ditka had to stand up to that and drill guys to the ground because of that. So that is one thing that stands out to me there. Fun fact, as Zach said, the fun fact for kicking and screaming, the fun fact for Mike Ditka is he traded his entire draft picks for a running back when he was the Saints head coach. And that went pretty bad, folks. Pretty bad. The guy didn't even last that long.
Got to stay off the weed, and you can't trade that many picks for Ricky Williams.
Yeah, brutal there, brutal, folks. But let's kick it to O line here. We'll go. Zach, you start out with, as we've done the past couple episodes, we're going to go left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. You're giving me the whole list, and then I'm going to come back to you with my list, and we're going to compare and contrast on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for my left tackle, I had Jim Parker. That was easy.
Ooh.
That was an easy one. My left guard, I had Gene Upshaw. Even though he didn't play too long in the 60s, I still really respect him. At center, I went Bob DeMarco, who's a pretty random name. Not many people know, probably. Right guard, now we get into Packers territory. I got Jerry Kramer and then Forrest Gregg at right tackle. Just briefly about each of these guys. Jim Parker, first of all, one of my favorite GOAT series names because he's the milkman. That's my nickname for him because no one dominated the era more than him in terms of going against the milkman because he was huge. He was at like he was like that when you have like a tackle in the modern NFL who's like that 6'5", really good frame. That was Jim Parker back then. So he was going against Milkman. He just dominated with that strength, great form as well. So a fantastic player, key part for Johnny Unitas. Gene Upshaw, like I said, he didn't play too long in the 60s, but still just fantastic run blocker, polar, great strength as well. You needed strength back then to be a linebacker, like you said, because defense was crazy game back then. Center, I went with Bob DeMarco, who was just a very solid career player for the Cardinals, who aren't a very well-known team in history, but he was just a super consistent starter, started almost every game in the 60s, 3 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, and just a very sound pass blocker, played a very clean game. And then Jerry Kramer and Forrest Gregg. This man I'll talk about, I'm sure, a lot, so I'll just let him do that. But that's my line. It's a fun decade for linemen. Lots of legends. The players that just really, really helped their team a lot.
They absolutely did. So I did go with Jerry Kramer, Forrest Gregg for the right guard and right tackle. I will start my left tackle first. I was very tempted to take Jim Parker here. The only reason I didn't give it to him because it was really towards the end of the decade. And when I look at this guy, he was mostly throughout the decade. So that is my only critique I had to give on Jim Parker, even though I love the Milkman. We've really talked about him so much on the GOAT series. I know that's Zach's guy. I had to go with this guy here, which is pretty much a boring name. Bob Brown. It's not Charlie Brown, guys. 4 first-team All-Pro he had, 2 second-team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. That really stood out to me. Why he got that is because of that. I mean, now, yes, it was easier to get the first, second-team All-Pros, but that's still accomplishment you can't deny right away there. What stood out to me from him was he was very violent with hand strikes, not like Cobra Kai or Karate Kid where you go, no mercy, strike first, strike hard. Now, he literally ripped it up the play by tossing those defenders and literally punching them right in the chest, droving that fist right in there to basically push them right out of the gate. And boy, oh boy, he did that a lot during his time. He did that. So that is why I got to give it. He was a very physical guy, and you had to be. We go back to that era, Zach. The flags that get called today, there'd be a million flags more called from that era of what you were allowed and not allowed to do. A lot more physical way back then in that era compared to a lot lighter era. Like you could hit the quarterback all you want. You could really knock the quarterback out back in the day. It's crazy to see that. For left guard, I went for the different Gene, as I mentioned before. I went with Gene Hickerson. Gene Hickerson, a one-time NFL champion, 4 first-team All-Pro, 2 second-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. What stood out to me was he was unusual for a lineman because of his weight and his size. He wasn't like the normal lineman he was, but his quickness allowed him to trap defenders, lead the sweeps, and block down the field effectively, which he anchored against the top pass blocker. He rarely allowed pressure on his quarterback and had very good leverage and precise technique. That really stood out to me about him. So that'd get appreciation there for Gene Hickerson. And then my center, I went with another Packer because he was my GOAT for the centers. That's Jim Ringo. I can't deny that. You go the awards, 7-time Pro Bowler, 6 combinations of second team and first team All Pro. He's a 2-time NFL champion. And he had to be one of the guys to anchor where guys were supposed to go for the power jet suit, like I mentioned, Paul Hornung. So that he was kind of a little bit of command there, especially with Bart Starr. They got to communicate of how to snap the ball, where to place and how to go with it. Then you get the Jerry Kramer, which greatest name of Seinfeld. If you're a Seinfeld fan, Jerry Seinfeld, Cosmo Kramer. He is probably my favorite guy from that O-line. I always loved watching, just hearing his stories about the Ice Bowl, hearing his time back in the playing day. 2-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time NFL champion, 5 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros. He wasn't great, Zach, when he first started out. Like when he was a rookie, first 2 years in, he wasn't that great. But once Vince Lombardi took him in, he really stood out, and he became part of that signature sweep where you had to pull the guards out and trap the seal defenders. So like coming off the edge, you have the guards out, boom, you push them out. And you see that now in Madden. You see that so many times, even in today's game. You see that, and you use that play numerous times in Madden to play against your opponent. So Kramer, great guy, guys. Then to give it to my right tackle here, Forrest Gregg, of course, to mention with Zach again. The achievements insane again, like 7 first-team All-Pros, 5 NFL championships, 2 Super Bowls, 8-time Pro Bowl. Same thing again, like I mentioned with Kramer. Very good at having the precise technique and dominating. As if it's executed properly, it dominates very well. So that entire O-line really was insane to watch. That's why the Packers' entire team of that Vince Lombardi era, the O-line was the most important piece of that. And that has definitely been used like for other Super Bowl winning teams and other winning teams in the NFL, like the Philadelphia Eagles when they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. All the roster was about the O-line first. And execute properly, and they beat the Chiefs and blew them out. So that is my O-line, folks.
Yeah, O-line, so important. Back in the 60s and today and every year in between, you need a good line to win, especially if you don't have like Patrick Mahomes or someone like that. You absolutely need that line to support your whole roster, really. So very important.
It is very important, folks. You got to have that in order to start an NFL franchise. But let's kick it over to the defense, folks. The defense. Zach, we're going to start with edge here. Who do you have as your edge rusher here?
For edge rusher, this is probably the easiest pick of the whole thing, maybe. I mean, Forrest Gregg and Kramer were pretty easy too, but I have Deacon Jones for my edge. Just like absolute baller. I mean, sacks weren't even officially a thing when he played, which is a shame.
Yeah,
because he was just a legend. That whole Rams defensive line was incredible, but he's the name that really stands out. Just so quick, so good with his hands, just could shed off blocks. Amazing in the run game as well, which I feel like in the modern NFL, like the defensive ends need to be a little better in the run game because a lot of them like only focus on getting those sacks. But I appreciate those guys who can do both, stuff the run and get those sacks, which is what Deacon Jones was. Just one of the best players, in NFL history, really, especially from that era. So for me, that was just an easy fill in there for me.
Same here. Yeah, I think it was an easy pick for me to give that. I think he's also one of the most underrated guys. If we really look at the greatest of all time, I think he's truly underrated. And had we gotten like statistics counted back then, he definitely would be up there in the top list of most sacks. Like, yes, he is on the list, but that was when they tracked it very late in his career. had they tracked it in the beginning of his career, I think he'd be up there, like maybe with the Reggie White, the Bruce Smith, the Lawrence Taylor talks of who's the greatest edge rusher of all time. I think he'd be up there for the talks for it.
Yeah, I feel like like he really even should be like as it is. It's just a shame because people just don't have those statistics, and it's a shame. But we still love Deacon Jones on the channel.
But let's move to nose tackle here. This one I thought was a little bit easier. I don't know for Zach, but this one I thought was easy for me. I'll go first. I went with, again, a boring name. I know it's like the boring names. Bob Lilly. I mean, boring name, I'm just going to say. But 6 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros, 11-time Pro Bowler, very good of like being one of the pivotal pieces of that Cowboys defense that kind of dominated for the reason why they kind of started getting good. Bob Lilly was one of those guys, and he was very good at it. He was very good at stopping the run, stacking guys, even when he's getting split double team or getting chip blocked. Like, you see that today. He had to handle that way back in the day. He was one of the first guys that had to handle that, and he persevered through it by squeezing through the running lanes, broke down and exploded the whole O-line, and pancaked the guy every single time and beat him. Whether it had to take 2 or 3 blockers, he still would get after the guys and mess up the whole offensive play somehow. So Bob Lilly had to get it to me here. I had to go with him. Zach, what about you?
Yeah, that's a great pick, and he probably was the best, honestly. Like, he's the first name I thought of. However, I have someone else, a player that almost no one probably has heard of. He also has a very boring name, which doesn't help, but his name is Roger Brown, and he was a nose tackle for the Detroit Lions throughout the 1960s. And our buddy Phil, who's been on the show, he would be like his favorite player if Phil was alive in the 60s, because he was kind of like generational for the true big man nose tackle, the nose guard. He was the first NFL defensive lineman who consistently started that weighed more than 300 pounds. And he was a player. He had 79 sacks. That's not official, sadly, but people kind of have guesses, including like so many years with like 12 to 14, which is just crazy. And he obviously stuffed that run being that size, and just a very underrated career. Had 6 Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros. He's not like in the Hall of Fame or anything, but a very underrated name in terms of proving that like really big men can play a role on a team, especially pass rushing as well. So this is a very great player, very fun career. Good for Roger,
Good pick. That's a great pick. All right, we're going to go to outside linebacker here. Zach, you're going to kick it off for us here. Who is your outside linebacker here?
Yeah, great question. With linebackers, I somewhat cheated. They're both kind of middle linebackers, but I'm going to make it work,
Okay, that's fine.
For outside, I'm going to have... Now, this is like a guy, he didn't play very long in the 1960s, but once again, I just love him and just want to talk about him. And that is Concrete Charlie Chuck Bednarik.
That's a good
Just
pick.
a great player. I'm sure in the 1950s episode, I'm sure you'll be talking about him a lot more.
Yep.
But even in the 60s, he played a few just incredible years. He was one of your classic two-way players. He played center and he played linebacker. And probably maybe the most famous two-way player, at least maybe in the Philadelphia area, at least where we're from. So just his fingers, like if you just look at his fingers, you can tell how hard he played, because his fingers are messed up. He was as hard hitting as they come, both on offense and defense. Was really a leader of both of those units. Easy Hall of Famer. Just so many All-Pros and Pro Bowls. Just no one there will never be another player like him, and that's a guarantee. Maybe we'll have another Mahomes, but there will not be another Concrete Charlie because of rule changes and just durability of playing every single snap of every game. It's pretty unbelievable, and he's a fun guy to talk about, especially being from near Philadelphia.
That's a great pick there. I mean, the only 2 ways I think of it, the one that sticks out to me for like football wise is Deion Sanders. I think that's the one that kind of sticks out to me a little bit. I did play 2 ways. I actually with Travis Hunter, which they don't last that long, and he did last that long, so I still give it appreciation there to Concrete Charlie. You don't hear about the guy that often unless you're in the Philadelphia area, which we are.
Yeah, for sure. Just a super legendary player. Just one of it's what made the '60s so fun. You had players like him. You just don't see it anymore. Maybe Travis Hunter will pan out. We'll see. As a Browns fan, I kind of hope it doesn't because we, trade away that pick. But
Yeah,
who knows? We will see.
we will see definitely. For my pick, I think this is an underrated player. It does get appreciation, and when you look at the impact he had on that defense, he definitely did juvenate of how we won the games and definitely made a great plays and clutch plays in that process. And for me, that is Dave Robinson, three-time NFL champion, two-time Super Bowl champion, one first team All-Pro, two second team All-Pro, three-time Pro Bowler. A lot of people say, Zach, that he was Lawrence Taylor before Lawrence Taylor happened of the size, the physicality, and how we play the game. That's crazy to hear of Dave Robinson being that category for that. But he was a really outstanding guy. Like, you had to stop the run, stop the pass. He sacked the quarterback multiple times, especially against Roger Staubach back when they had the NFC Championship games or NFL Championship for the NFC wise, or what was called before the Super Bowl merger. He definitely made a play on that. Like, this is an outstanding guy. I think he absolutely has to get appreciation here. But he was, again, very good at exceeding at holding the point of attack with the strength and agility he had himself. Power through it, and boom, he could do it every single time. So, Dave Robinson, gotta give the nod to him a little bit there. You gotta give appreciation to him there. So,
Another great Packer, and it's actually shocking. My next player is also a Packer, which is shocking for middle linebacker. But it's not Dave Robinson. He is great though. I have Ray Nitschke. He was my middle linebacker, so that was a good transition. Yeah, just a fantastic centerpiece for that Packers defense. There's not enough really you can say. Just a tackle machine, just hard hitting. Knew the game well. Knew what his coaches wanted from him, and has some good rings from it. And
yep.
fantastic player. I always loved him in Madden too. I remember one year he had such a great legend card. I loved it so much. I would user him all day. And fantastic player.
Absolutely. He's an absolutely fantastic player. I just want to give Reinitsky the accolades that I did not give to him in seasons prior. In season one, I didn't give him that appreciation. I think I did give appreciation a little bit in the franchise series of the Packers, but I think Ray has to definitely get appreciation here. Definitely, like, he got the rings, he got the achievements again. The reason why that's, like we mentioned before, why O-line had to be so tough and everything was because of Ray Nitschke. Ray Nitschke was the bone crushing guy of, like, you think of Mike Singletary, of course, or like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, those guys. But Ray Nitschke literally, he didn't care. He didn't care what was going to happen if he gets punched or anything. He literally stopped and beat the heck out of the guys and still pursued it by stopping the run, very explosive. He was also very good in the coverage too, which that's surprising given what his size was as a linebacker. But you would want him at it. As Zach mentioned, you would want to have this guy battling your team. Let's move to safety here. Zach, well, I'm going to start with you again here. Who is your safety here?
In my safety here, there's a lot of good options. I went with Larry Wilson.
I like that.
Cardinal safety mostly. Was an 8-time Pro Bowler. He won Defensive Player of the Year in 1966 as well. He was just kind of the best of both worlds with safeties. He could come off the edge as a blitzer, and he was one of the first players to do that well as a safety. And he could also be that ball hawk, cover the field very well. It reminds me of like a very, very older version of like Troy Polamalu or Brian Dawkins, like because those are the blitzing safeties I think of from the modern game. Just a fantastic player. Watch when possible. Not not too many highlights out there, but
Yeah.
just a leader in his defense for sure, and that's a great gift to have when you have a safety that can be that versatile for you.
No, absolutely. Larry is outstanding pick here. I wanted to give it to somebody else, like another appreciation. Not trying to be a homer, as some people would say in this video, which I have reason to give the to give these guys the awards on my pick here. This guy really reminded me of like Ronnie Lott back in the day because, again, he was one of the hardest NFL hitters and very good at like reading the coverage of seeing to see where the quarterback's like looking. Like, I'm going to throw it this way, I'm going to throw it that way. Like, he really had the good vision and being nicknamed the center fielder in zone coverage, which is what safeties basically are. It's like in baseball, you're basically trying to figure out where you're reading the ball, tracking the ball, come down with it. So for me, it's Willie Wood. Great Packer. Folks that don't know, he, again, was part of that Lombardi era. He had 8 combinations of first team and second team All-Pro. So basically, he had an All-Pro in almost every single year of the 1960s, had 7 Pro Bowls in the process, led the NFL in interceptions one time, which he really couldn't do that because of Larry Wilson led that so many times there. So I think he has to get a little appreciation here. I'm not trying to be Homer here, but I think he has to get appreciation here, Zach.
Yeah, that's fair. I've honestly never even heard of him, so it's nice to learn about a new player, you know?
Yeah. He made some great plays too. Like if you look at the Super Bowls, like against Super Bowl 1, Super Bowl 2, he made a lot of great plays in that process. So Willie, got to give it to him here. Now we're going to go CB here before we get to our special teams here. All right, I'll start first because I know people are going to get a little annoyed. But I think, again, what I just said about Willie Wood is reasonable cause here of what I just mentioned before, and that's Herb Adderley here. A lot of people have heard the name Adderley, and a lot of people remember of the grandson that got drafted to the Chargers many years ago. Zach, you might remember him a bit. He didn't pan out in the NFL. But his grandfather did pan out in the NFL, and he is a 2-time Super Bowl champion, part of the Vince Lombardi decade again, almost again with like first team, second team, Pro Bowls, whatever, almost every single year. And he was more of a ball hawk guy, as I like to say. So like you think of Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins, you think of not like a Troy Polamalu guy, even though he was a good hitter or anything, but very good at like stopping the top wideouts, like we mentioned before with Tommy McDonald or Lance Allworth. Very good at stopping that, and he was also very good tackler too. Signature play I remember was against the Raiders, I believe, where he got a pick 6 in the Super Bowl, and that basically sealed it Packers to win that Super Bowl. And he got so many like turnover interceptions in that game, made so many plays in that. So got appreciation to him. I just have to, Zach. I have to. But floor is yours now, sir.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, stats wise, he is probably the best from that era. I mean, when I was looking at it earlier, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I want someone else just for fun, like you did for safety. I mean, he's a Dallas Cowboy, so it's not much better, sadly. But his name's Cornell Green. He was cornerback for Dallas. He made 5 Pro Bowls and 4 All Pros. He was a very key part of the early, kind of with Bob Lilly, that early era of the Cowboys becoming like a powerhouse, famous team. Had almost 40 career interceptions, was just a fantastic player. And he really was like a project player because he never played football in college, actually. He played basketball, but his career did not go good in basketball. So he switched over to football and worked out really well. And it's cool when stories like that happen. So yeah, just a very solid piece of those defensive teams. Just the thing with a cornerback is sometimes like you don't want people to say your name because you just want to lock down your guy and do your job and not have the attention on you. As a cornerback, that's good. And he was a kind of one of those guys. Like he's not very famous, Cornell Green, but just played a great role and a fun story because he never played high school or college football. So pretty crazy how a guy like that can make 4 All Pros.
No, absolutely. I see the same thing. Like you mentioned about the series, I see that about O linemen. Like if I don't have to hear about them getting a holding call or like kind of screwing up the play, they're doing a good job to me. As long as they don't like screw up and like it's kind of blatantly obvious like you stink, then that tells me like, okay, he's good. He's not terrible, or he's doing a very good job and everything. Like that's a good job.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. As a lineman, unless you're like one of the best, you just don't want to be, you just don't want to mess up. Yep, that's for sure.
Definitely here. All right, let's kick it to our favorite part of the GOAT series here of position wise, which we're going to kick it to kicker now. Is we're going to kick the field goal. It's good, like Brandon Aubrey is, like he leads the NFL. But Zach, I will kick it to you here. Pun intended there, of course. Who is your kicker, and what does it mean to be a kicker? Because you are the kicker expert and guru of this. YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, save the best for last. Sadly we don't have punters, but to be
Yeah.
honest, the 1960s was not a very great punting year, like decade, unfortunately,
Mhm.
because 1974, that's when Ray Guy started. That's when punting really became fun. So 60s, not many good punters, but kicking, there were some fun names. And as being the kicker guy, I try to, make fun picks here. And my kicker is named Jim Martin. A
Ooh.
very kind of boring name, also pretty generic name. But he is a very fun story. So he played the entire 1950s decade as well. He had a long career. And
Okay.
early on in his career in the 50s, he mostly played left guard for the Detroit Lions. And he
Okay.
kicked a little bit. He was kind of like the backup kicker, like he kicked a few times a year. Very bad in the 1950s. One year he kicked 16% field goals in the 50s. Very bad. However, he would bounce back in the 60s. He randomly
Okay.
figured something out. Because starting in 1960, he made a league leading back then 52-yard field goal, which back then, that was like, whew, that was a lot. And he had three other 52-yard field goals in his career. So he had a leg. I mean, he was a large man, obviously. He was a left guard. And in the 60s, he put up some good numbers for being a old kicker. And he actually retired temporarily in 1962. But, and this is the most fun fact, he came back in 1963 and won comeback player of the year. What a goat. I mean, I don't know why he retired. He probably milkman job, probably just got too busy. But he came back in 1963, comeback player of the year with the Colts. His field goal percentage was 61, which back then 60s was good, which is
Mhm.
crazy but true. And made a couple more 52-yarders. He was just a fun player. Had a very, very, very bad start of his career, but he
Mhm.
bounced back. He proved it's never too late. And that 1963 year was special. We need kickers to win awards again. We need to make some kicker award or something. Come on, NFL.
For me, I want to go with a guy that kind of stood out a little bit. He did play both sides, but I liked him as a kicker, and that's George Blanda. I'm not going to mention much of his awards here because a lot of them were because he was a quarterback, but the one award I will say, when he was in the AFL side, he was the one-time scoring leader. He won it one time, Zach, in that process. And to give my kicker guru, which Zach is a better guru than me, but how I will say about what George Bland, how he kicked the ball was he basically straight foot plant. He planted his foot and straight kicked it, striking it squarely and stepped it for a low. So it was a low high kick and basically it's spun, 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 and you hope they got it. It's like kicking a soccer ball, and you don't kick it with your side foot. You go literally top of your tip of your toe, and boom. That's how it was for George Blanda. That's how it was for him. So he is my appreciation here. I got to give to him though.
Yeah, it is crazy how they used to kick footballs. Like, I don't know why they thought that was good, like kicking it straight like that, but that's just how they did it. It has changed and probably for the better, but hey, still great guys back then, kicking the ball.
Absolutely. But folks, that concludes our list here. So make sure to leave a comment of what your list would be if you argue any of our lists of what you had for me or Zach. Please let us know in the chat, folks. Make sure to subscribe to the button, which we've already hit our goal for the year, which we've gone over close to 200 subs, which is insane to hear. We've had over thousands of views so far, whether it's the shorts videos or the long form content. We appreciate it, folks, and happy holidays for those who celebrate. We appreciate it, you watching these videos here. Zach, thank you again for coming on. Where can the people find you? I mean, I know we have mentioned the commercial like every single episode, but leave it out there for the fans again, folks.
Well, yeah, if this is your first time, yeah, here's my Instagram right here. I got a
Woo.
sports
There we
card collection, some are for sale if you're looking to start your own collection. And I don't collect too many old players, sadly, but I do collect a lot of Ray Guy. So if you're a Ray Guy fan like me, you'll enjoy and appreciate if you can check it out.
there we go, folks. There we go. Make sure to check out Zach and all the work he does, specifically on his Instagram, like you just mentioned. That's where you can find if he's doing his sales, trade nights, especially if you're in the Pennsylvania area. He does go to out to some trade shows, so make sure to go check that out if you're into sports cards, specifically football, because that's what he's really into. Really get into that, especially for his Jarvis Landry collection is insane. He's probably the big number one Jarvis Landry fan of card collection, I would say. That
It's
I
a
would
lot.
agree.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree unless it's Jarvis Landry himself. Like, that's my only guess. But that'll be a wrap here, folks. We'll see you until next time. And as always, go Pack, go.